The other hat I'm wearing is I'm chairing the review of STEM education for the government at the moment, and we'll be reporting to the Minister for Education in late November. But again, number one, it's about the quantity and quality of those coming through into the STEM area, STEM careers, STEM researchers. The best example of the problem is the ICT area, where in such an active area in our economy, even in difficult times, only 55% of all the jobs created can be provided by Irish graduates, which pinpoints one of the problems. So we'll be making recommendations around the nature of teaching, the nature of promotion of STEM careers, the gender imbalance issues, but all the time trying to create a well-funded ecosystem of education, which means the individuals coming through have the highest quality of education across the individual STEM disciplines. That's the hard sciences, the technologies, the coding, but mathematics is the fundamental enabler, and until we get that into a better shape, we won't have, I mean, again, coming back to Nora, your French education and the deep, deep knowledge you got in mathematics, which is quite different to what happens here, it's a great example how you could bring that forward to an application context.
Yeah, totally.
So.
That's very interesting. So you feel that the education you got in mathematics was...
It's at the basis of it all, yeah. So it's the whole, even what we're doing now, it's all a lot of it is based on my own background in mathematics. I applied mathematics in Einstein's relativity in many, many fields, and taking theories that have never been used elsewhere into what we're doing now. And that's what I'm doing now. So I think mathematics, pure mathematics, because applied you're still pushed into a direction, but pure mathematics, when you see the big picture, I think that there's no limit. You can reuse these theories and put them in application in different areas.
And Linda, you have a background in
engineering.
You're an engineer, aren't you? I was going to say, I have to touch on it here because Brian mentioned it there, and I can't resist. Is that area of gender and this idea that girls don't do honours maths or whatever it may be. I mean, how do we change that perception?
Well, I mean, it still is a reality in terms of the numbers of people working in engineering. I mean, I can give you some very cliched answers. I mean, we do find in CTVR and in Connect that, I mean, the age-old thing of a role model actually does work. So we have more women in CTVR, I think, because I am there in the first place. We also, I think I was talking to you the other day, one of my colleagues is Brazilian, and we actually have a surprising number of Latino people working there, and that's, it's really interesting how people in certain roles they automatically are seen as an attraction for somebody looking for positions. Yeah. So I think that helps. I have very strong opinions about the engineering undergraduate degree, I have to say, and I would like to blast a huge hole in everything we do in engineering here and completely redesign it from the beginning. Because one of the things I feel very strongly, if you look at emerging economies in particular, women play a hugely dominant role in technology there. They're the gatekeepers of technology, and they're the gatekeepers of a lot of the jobs around technology, mobile phones, and I heard of this thing of the data ladies in India. And I think that says to me that there's a natural affinity for technology, and it's not something that's alien or just something that men gravitate towards. And I think there's something very wrong here that we kind of seem to not be able to harness that. So I think there's an awful lot wrong with the undergraduate education in the context, but and it needs to be hugely redesigned. That's how I feel about it.
I think the same, and I think it's personal choices. I think it's okay not to like science. That's grand. If you don't like it, there's no point pushing someone towards it. The big mistake is actually deciding when you're 12 that science is not sexy. We're not going in there. We want to do something else. We want to have a family and go this other way. That's dangerous, and I think making science sexier, and it is sexy. Like for me, it's the sexiest thing. Like finding someone curious, it's great, and building that curiosity, I think, and showcasing that science is a sexy area to be in, I think, is part of the whole challenge, and they should do that. Yeah. If
I can comment, we won't be allowed to use that language in our report.
Okay.
But that's what we mean.
Okay.
But to use the report language, or what I think what you're talking about is...
It's exciting.
It's exciting.
Very exciting.
Sex-citing. But I think it is about inquiry-based learning. And I think that whole notion, and any of you in the room would have seen the energy in the RDS in that first week in January around the BT Young Scientists, where you have young people excited about solving problems.
Yes.
Trying to mainstream that and get that excitement about, and it comes back to creativity and problem solving, and essentially the focus of today's events, innovation, because that's what they're talking about, articulating a problem, applying multidisciplinary creative solutions to that, and translating it into practice, all the key elements of innovation, but actually embedding that in the education system, so that we're saying to every young person coming through, you can be an innovator, you can problem solve, and get that excitement of problem solving and creativity into the science, engineering, coding situation. Let me say that one of the offshoots of one of the best things happening in Ireland, Coder Dojo, they've created with Intel coolest projects. It's growing more rapidly than BT Young Scientists. We had to cut short the numbers, 200 teams of kids last year solving problems through coding. Absolutely unbelievable. But that, say, innovation culture in the country, creating a framework of opportunities for young people, I think that'll start to feed through to get the sort of results we need to see.
But I was actually one of the judges on that last year. Enjoyed it so much. Incredible, these kids, boys and girls.
But I think actually there's a change happening in Ireland. We had a stand at Maker Fair this year, and for people who don't know, Makers is kind of DIY, electronicsy, do things, make yourself. And I couldn't, basically I spent the entire day answering questions from people aged 4 to 90 about technology and about why something works and how does this work. And I do think there's an audience in Ireland now for technology that actually is a kind of a general public audience, as well as an audience of people who want to go on and study it in a way that doesn't exist before, and that people are engaging more in this. And actually something you just said there, Nora, as well, about curiosity. There's a thing called the Festival of Curiosity that SFI is one of the sponsors of it. And it's for kids, and it's set in Dublin. It happens once a year in Dublin City over a period of about 4 or 5 days. But it especially harnesses that it's about like building curiosity. I like the name of it because even though I always get upset when people don't use the word engineering as much as the word science, so curiosity is a good word because it captures them both for me.
Neutral.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is about, kind of building curiosity, and that's only a few years old, and they had about 44,000 visitors this year to it over that period of time, and it's run by 2 people who do that. So I think it's just amazing that those kind of things exist in Ireland and in Dublin, and you can see that happening now.
Alan, can I bring you in there? You know that idea of that multidisciplinary approach that crosses different disciplines. I mean, in the Irish Research Council and the kind of people you're funding, is it something you see a lot, that there's convergence now and changes?
Yeah, absolutely. I always find that the most exciting work that I've ever done has been at the intersections of disciplines. It's when you take something like basic mathematics and you apply it to food nutrition. It's great to do innovations in a narrow field, but it's even more exciting and challenging when you bring it across disciplines.